The godfather of Virginia politics, Senate Leader Dick SaSlaw. Senator, great to have you with us.
Well, thank you, John. I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving.
I did, and happy Thanksgiving to you, and a Merry Christmas, although we'll have you on by then, just in case. Merry Christmas to you, your family, your grandchild, right, the new one, and all that good stuff. So,
right. It may be a little difficult to be on there because we won't be on the East Coast, but that's okay.
Oh, that's right. You'll be visiting your daughter in, where is she, L.A. or San Francisco?
They're in San Francisco, but we'll actually be a couple thousand miles even west of there.
Oh, you'll be in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like a 6-hour difference. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tough. You'd have to be on at midnight.
Almost
Hawaii time,
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so great to have you with us, sir. I want to talk about a couple of things. Last year, about this time, we had you tabbed to pull off what I call the Great Trifecta. Basically, you had to win 3 things in order to get back as the majority leader. You pulled it off, won the straight trifecta down the line. Now you're going into the General Assembly. You're in the minority. You're down by 1. But elections, November 2015, how do you gain your majority back?
Well, I don't want to get into individual races, but there are some seats that are, that I think are a definite possibility. You remember in 2007, we were 23-17 down, and we picked up 4 seats. There's some competitive seats there. We have some competitive seats that we're going to have to defend, no question about it. But, this is definitely doable.
You got some good news that I found out on Monday. You want me to tell you what the good news is?
Okay.
Okay, the good news is in District 6, where you have to defend the seat of Linwood Lewis. Remember, he won that special by 10 votes, I believe, over Wayne Coleman. Well, in that
landslide.
Yeah, landslide Linwood. In that district, I had Coleman running again, and I had him as the favorite to win that seat. Now, I talked to Wayne the other day. He is not going to run for family reasons. So one of the candidates, the likely nominee, Richard Ottinger, doesn't have the name recognition that Wayne did. And so that's good news for you there, because now, assuming that it's Ottinger or someone else, I have changed, and Linwood now is about I've got him as a 5-point favorite there. So a big swing without Wayne in that race, I think. That's
one of the semi-rural districts that Mark Warner actually did pretty good in. And there were some things that could have been done a little differently that we did the last time. But Linwood has been working pretty hard since that election. I think that, he realizes that, this is not a walk in the district's not a walk in the park. Definitely winnable. I mean, the president has carried it. McAuliffe carried it. Warner carried it just 4 weeks ago, 5. But he's going to have to work, but he realizes it.
I think he's the favorite now without Coleman. If Coleman was in there, I had him as a 4-point favorite. Now I've got Linwood as a 5, so I see it as a 9-point swing. And, I'm never wrong on this stuff. Speaking of never wrong, Leader SaSlaw, you said that Mark Warner would win by double digits.
Something, I was totally wrong on that. And, I don't think it would have made any, and I told this to, some of Mark's people. Looking at those election results and what happened across the country on Tuesday, November the 4th, I don't think it would have mattered whether they would have put up Lassie or not. I don't think the results would have been any different. I don't think they were voting for Gillespie or against Warner. I think they were just furious with Washington, Congress, the White House, and they took it out there. I mean, there were races across the country that, I would think some of the pollsters are going to have to rethink, what they do and why they were off by so much. But there were races there that generally would not have been close or were supposed to be close and were blowouts.
Right.
I mean, and it didn't just happen, here. It was all across the country.
That was Arkansas. Arkansas was one of them that was supposed to be relatively close. That was
Georgia?
a blowout. Georgia was a blowout.
Yeah. I mean, none of them were even close.
Yeah, there was definitely a wave. Now, I agree with you that I think if Shaq Hill was the candidate, he might have won. But let me just share this. I went to the 31st annual Donald W. Huffman Advance for the Republican Party of Virginia, which we always carry live like we do the Democratic Jefferson Jackson dinner. It's always a lot of fun for us. And there was a lot of speakers at the gala. One of the speakers was Ed Gillespie, and he talked for 20 minutes. And he said exactly the same thing he said in its 10-month U.S. Senate campaign. Nothing. He said nothing. Again, it's like another speech by Ed Gillespie, and another time he says absolutely nothing. I don't think I've ever met a politician who could make that many speeches and say nothing that many times. Unbelievable. Here on the John Fredericks Show, we're with the Godfather, Dick SaSlaw. He is minority leader of the state Senate of Virginia. Senator, let's get to the upcoming 2015 General Assembly. The last General Assembly, you were on the verge of taking over. Medicaid expansion, big issue. What's on your agenda going into 2015?
One of the bills that I have deals with this situation at UVA and other universities, and that's you've got a situation there, and there's no question that Rolling Stone's reporting was spotty at best, and the woman did not do a very good job in checking some of the what she had heard. But I don't think there's anybody who's disputed that something pretty bad didn't happen to the girl, and she's probably raped. Whether it happened in that manner or not, I don't know. Whether that many people were involved, I don't know. Apparently, there's a lot of dispute over that. But there's, the Washington Post had I think it was in an editorial, but I'm not sure. But they pointed out, either the editorial or the article, that in the last 10 years, not one sexual assault's been referred to the police in Charlottesville or the state police. And you've got a situation, my daughter went there, and she says that a lot of the kids, they know what the policy is. They don't want anything in the press. And they essentially try to, they say, well, we'll give you all the help you want, but do you really want to blow this up? What my bill says is that if a girl comes to an administrator or faculty member and says, this happened to me, okay, a sexual assault of that, and I've defined what it would be in the Code of Virginia, or what it would be is defined currently by the Code of Virginia. They got 24 hours to report it to the police, and if they don't, they could be charged with a Class 1 misdemeanor. And that's up to a $2,500 fine and possibly even a year in jail. Here's the situation. The girl still would have the option of not pressing charges. But, John, I'd rather have the police detective telling her why she ought to press charges than the university telling her why she probably shouldn't. And the bottom line is, and this is what I've heard from attorneys and police, the university has no business adjudicating a felony. None. Zero. And, I mean, if the building was on fire, they'd call the fire department.
Right.
Okay? I don't have any doubt, I really don't, that if Yardley Love had not died from that beating she got from Hughley, it would have never been in the newspapers and he had never gone to jail.
Because it would have been squashed.
It would have been squashed.
And so your daughter attended there, Senator. She graduated there. When you talked to your daughter about her experience there, did she say there was some of this stuff going on or not?
She says, I didn't, she says that it does go on. And then it didn't happen to her.
Right.
But she says that, people pretty much understood what the university policy was. And the university, and they deny it. They said, no, that's not so. But if that's not so, then why did they, A, suspend the fraternities, and B, now they're coming out, with a whole new set of regulations, which I haven't seen yet, on what, they're going to do. But all of that aside, John, they have no business. A dean has no business adjudicating a felony. When a young lady comes to him or anybody and says, this happened to me, and it's a felony, and they know it's a felony, they have no business doing anything other than immediately calling the police. And if the girl doesn't want to press charges, she'd tell that to the police. But that's not the university's call. And they have no business being involved in that aspect of it. Helping her out with counseling and things like that, absolutely. But they have no business in making that decision or being involved in it.
Well, Senator, that makes a lot of sense to me. We had Adam Eben on our show the other day. He's got a bill that he pre-filed to decriminalize up to 1 ounce of marijuana. So that instead of going to jail, getting your car forfeited, getting your license going away, get a lawyer, all this stuff, you pay a $100 fine, you walk away. 5 states have already legalized this. Does that bill have legs?
Well, I don't have any problem with that. Let me give you a little bit of history on that. Back in the late 70s, and I was in the House then, a bill came through that dealt with simple possession of marijuana, and they defined that as less than a half ounce. And what it essentially said was that if you were arrested for that, you'd be on probation for a year because, we were going to, we would have run out of jail space, and you had a whole generation of kids, with felony records. And if you had less than that and then didn't have an arrest dealing with drugs for the next year, your record got expunged. And Dalton signed that. Governor Dalton signed that.
Right. And
I don't have a problem. Essentially, you're raising it to an ounce or less. There's no reason, to stick people in prison or in jails, because of that. And so it's probably got more of a problem in the House than it does in the Senate. But the committees are a little different since the Republicans took back over. So it's going to be a close call. But I just can't see sticking people in prison for an ounce of marijuana. The other problem that you're going to have if we don't do something is you're going to have people who are buying it legally in Maryland coming across the bridge, and now they're in felony territory.
Right.
And, Maryland's now, legalized it. So the other thing I found that was interesting was the two teams at the time, the two teams that were in the Super Bowl last February were from the only 2 states that had legalized it, Colorado and Washington State.
Now, that's interesting. We can call it the marijuana Super Bowl.
Yes. When I asked Frank Wagner, he thought that this had an impact on the Redskins, he said there's not enough drugs to fix the problem. Frank's got that sense of humor.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
So I don't have a problem voting for that.
House leadership has embraced the Chap Peterson $100 gift limit idea for an ethics change. How do you stand on that? 1 minute.
I'd have to take a look at the bill, but I think I got somewhat of a problem. Number one, we ought to ban we shouldn't drop the distinction between tangible and intangible. And the tangible, we ought not to be able to get anything of value in a tangible gift. That ought to be cut to zero, with the exception of these association and plaques of the year, trophy, or something like that. But all gifts should be banned like that. Intangible gifts, dinners, they ought to leave that the way it is. And I'll tell you why. You're going to say to somebody, well, I can go to dinner with you one time or two if you don't spend more than, $100 on me.
Mm-hmm.
If you go any more than that, that's not right. But you can give me $10,000 a year in campaign contributions. Mm-hmm. That's absurd. Mm-hmm. And these companies ought not to be paying for your travel or your lodging. I agree with that.
All right.
Now, I don't have a problem with a nonprofit. I'm not trying to get at NCSL or ALEC or Southern Regional Education Board that they would be exempt. But, for-profit companies and things like that, they shouldn't be doing that. And these groups, association groups, shouldn't be taking you hunting in Canada.
I couldn't agree more with that. That's going to be the final word. We're almost out of time. We want to thank State Senator, Minority Leader of the Virginia Senate, Dick SaSlaw, for being with us, Democrat from Fairfax. And we wish, Dick, yourself, your family, your daughter, your little grandchild a very Merry Christmas. Please say hi to your wife. And don't forget this General Assembly session. Try to get me into that mansion for a happy hour, man.
I'm gonna take another run at that. Okay,
you got to give me a shot.
Promise. Anyway, listen. You have a great holiday. Okay, a great Christmas.
Thanks.
And New Year.
Okay.